3 minutes after, we're going to go ahead and start. Hello, everybody, and thanks for coming to this today. Welcome to Live Shopping Demystified. I'm your host, Cynthia Nelson, video commerce expert, investor advisor, and Forbes contributor. It's my sincere pleasure to host this amazing panel of experts who hail from some of the biggest brands on the planet across media, entertainment, live commerce, and AI. We're going to be covering a lot today. So the topics that we've kind of set aside, and we may go real deep down a rabbit hole. So don't worry if some of your questions don't get answered. We'll answer them later at a later time. But we're going to really talk about the measurable impact of live shopping on conversion and lift, identifying and building a pool of live sellers, Gen Z and multicultural. What we're looking at is the untapped gold mine of live shopping for brands. And AI and ML analytics, we call it a match made in digital shopping heaven. Before our guests introduce themselves, because they're way better at introducing themselves than I will be, I always miss things. There are just a couple pieces of housekeeping I want to go across. So one is, this is a live Q&A, so please do use the Q&A button at the bottom. Put your questions in there. We will stop and take mini breaks. If we're going down a rabbit hole, or you want to hear something else, or you have a question that we're just not getting to, please put it in Q&A and we will get to it as soon as we can. If we don't answer the question during the session, we will take all those Q&A questions, we'll answer them, and then we'll repost them for everybody as well. So you'll get them. Two, there's a short survey right after this webinar ends. Really short, like 2 questions short. The first question is, what did we do wrong? What did we miss? What are the things we didn't cover? Is there some subject that you really want to know a lot more about in the next webinar? Please let us know. And then 2, would you like to speak directly to any of the people that are in this panel? So if you would, you just hit the radio button, you want to speak to them, we will send your email information directly to them and they will be able to get in contact with you. And then 3rd, you guys are guests. You obviously are not on camera, but you do know that this is being recorded. So just letting you know, I don't want to have to moderate the QA and chat too much if I don't have to. So with that, let's get started. Ladies first, we're going to go in alphabetical order. Dawn, please introduce yourself.
Well, first of all, thank you, Cynthia, for putting together this incredible webinar. Really happy to be on with so many great experts and industry leaders. My name is Dawn Chubai. I have been in television on air for the last 23 years. I still am on air. My background initially was broadcast television, and then I moved into that world of live shopping as a TV home shopping host and live stream shopping host. And I'm also an established media trainer, on-camera confidence builder, and coach. And then, of course, I've used all that expertise to really bring you why I'm here today as the principal of Live Selling School, helping develop and train the next wave of live selling talent.
Awesome. Thank you so much. Next, I'm going to go Hazel.
Hi, thanks, Cynthia, for putting it together. You are a super trooper. Hi, I am Hazel Steward. So I have been in media and entertainment for some 25 plus years. I'm showing my age a little bit there. So I started over the pond in London at Sky TV and launched the largest entertainment channel over there. I then moved to LA and ran large development departments, creating shows and content for the usual suspects, the large broadcasters, CBS, ABC, NBCs, as well as working with talent like Lara Spencer and creating Flea Market Flip and such shows. And then when the digital turn came around 10 years ago, I jumped over and launched original programming in the largest fashion, style, and beauty network on YouTube, which was Style Hall, which was the first MCN, multi-channel network. So that was kind of the birth of influencers, if you like, sort of the brand's best thing to sell their products. I then since then have gone on to launch various people's multi-channel networks with a content focus, content driving commerce. The last 2 networks I've launched have been Spirits Network, all around booze, Watch, Click and Buy, and Reach TV in 100 of the leading airports, hotel rooms and cruise liners. I then went on to launch my own platform, which is Binge, a transformative AI audience intelligence platform driven by emotions and human behavior. So setting you up for success in whatever it is you're going to be selling, really understanding your audience. So that's me.
Thank you. Jackie?
And Cynthia, you are amazing at networking and connecting people. Thank you for bringing the 5 of us together. Very excited about today. I'm Jackie Hernandez. I'm founder of New Majority Ready, which is a marketing and content development consulting firm. Throughout my career, I've been working across media brands, consumer-facing media brands, both at what was at the time Time Warner and NBC Universal. I met Cynthia when I was publisher of People in Espanol and Teen People. She was COO of Todo Bebé. And then after that, I worked with her when I was chief operating officer of Telemundo, and I oversaw the youth network Mundos. So after a number of years doing that and leading those businesses, I expanded what I was doing at NBCU to be CMO of Hispanic Enterprises, really focused on bringing in youth and multicultural audiences across the portfolio, and found that I love having a portfolio of many different brands, which is what led to the launch of my firm, New Majority Ready. And I'm thrilled to be here. So thank you, Cynthia.
Thanks so much, Jackie. Mark,
Cynthia, thank you. I echo every what all you ladies have said about the great Cynthia Nelson. I have had probably more live experience, live television, live digital than most. It was never my intention. I started at Fox Television when it was a startup with Barry Diller, and we took a quiet, discreet little trip one day on a helicopter to Westchester, Pennsylvania, and where in the green room, instead of working on 21 Jump Street and Living Color and what have you, was Richard Simmons selling his oldies tapes, and in the other studio was Joan Rivers selling her little bead pendant that she did. And so it was really the early days of TV shopping, and got, X amount of decades later, what's old is sort of new again. And I think the interesting part of what is live and what isn't live and what isn't alive, which I'm often accused of overusing it. But I'm thrilled to be here. I just partnered with a great company called Stage 10, thanks to my friend Tommy Hilfiger, who's a huge fan of live streaming. Dave Lazar at Stage 10 up in Toronto, a great technology platform. And I'm thrilled to be here to answer any questions and give my 2 cents.
Awesome. Thank you, guys. So we're gonna jump into it, because first of all, there's a lot of confusion in the market about what all live shopping, video commerce, for some people it's live only, other ones it's VOD, other ones it's a combination of the two, and then there's one-to-one as well. And then, today with the announcement, I think it came out yesterday, of TikTok executing their live shopping app and platform across the US, reaching 150 million consumers. We're adding yet another. We don't have enough media outlets to go to. Here's one more, which we knew was actually coming. We had seen heard rumblings last year of it. But, I want to throw this out. Like, what is the difference between what we're seeing now and what was in the past? I'm throwing this to Mark first, just because of his QVC HSN background, but the rest of the group chime in. And please, again, everybody with Q&A, jump into Q&A and ask questions, please.
So for me, again, as I said, what's old is new again. The whole notion of live selling or shoppable video, etc., I think still has, yes, technology has improved, and we used to have, does the set look good and does the picture look good? Now how's the technology good, and is the user experience great? And how does the backend system work? And can you still watch a show and order a product if it's live? There's so many similarities to those early days of how do you sell. And certainly Dawn knows this from being on camera, that it's becoming, for brands and retailers, just as important to them as what the product is. And the whole notion of what is live and the whole idea of it, in these last 4 or 5 years, I think the figuring out of all these different companies all over the globe trying to figure out how do we do it as good as they're doing it in China, and how can we do $3 trillion in one day, and all those sort of metrics that everyone is throwing out. And I think it's still the early stages of this. And it reminds me very much of the cable and the broadcast days of TV shopping and home shopping and QVC. There's a lot of similarities to that, but obviously now with AI and all the things some of the things that we're going to to talk about. It's never been about how many viewers we had. We never cared about Nielsen ratings because we didn't make any money from advertising. All we cared about were people who bought from us. And it is very much the same today about conversion rates. And how do you convert, no matter how you get them there through social media, or you're going to spend money on marketing or acquisition costs, which I think are a disaster these days. That how do you get them there? And that's all fine and good, but then how do you get them to actually respond and buy and convert? And I think that is the real conundrum of what everyone is trying to figure out, which is why some is live and some is shoppable, what should come first, et cetera. Of course, I have my opinions about that, but I think the notion of where we are at in this current time with trying to figure it out and who should try live shopping. Should it be a retailer? Should it be a brand? Should it be social influencers? Maybe it's a combination of all, but I love the excitement of the newness that we're in uncharted waters, whether it's the old times again new, but we're certainly in uncharted waters about how to truly create that conversion.
Mark, just to tag on to that, only because you brought up my name. Listen, I would love for people to just go ahead and, sign up for the live selling platforms. And there are a lot of great shopping platforms out there, including Stage 10. I've talked with almost every single one of them. The idea that you can click in show, buy, stay in show, be excited and entertained. But if I were to define it, and maybe unpopular opinion by anyone that does business with live shopping platforms, if you are on video, you are participating in live selling, even if it's not live. And frankly, even in copy. I mean, there are strategies and techniques to connect through the screen, which elevates, it's that new generation of e-commerce. And as far as I'm concerned, whether it's, shoppable video, Amazon Live, TikTok, Pinterest TV, or Facebook or Instagram Live, where yes, you click out of show, there's value. A sale is a sale. And frankly, we've even seen modernizing of techniques back in the day of home shopping, where it started with a still picture and a voiceover where people shopped. Now even linear broadcasts are incorporating live stream shopping because, and you'll be able to speak this to as well, Hazel and Jackie, the idea that you are now able to hear voices that you have never heard on linear and may never hear. The diversity that is there, the faces that are represented, that frankly, even as much as home shopping is trying to modernize, there are still voices and faces and languages that you will never see on linear.
Absolutely. And something, Mark, you touched on, you said current. And I think that when we look at the current form of live shopping, it really represents a continuous evolution, whether it's technology, advanced data analytics, which I know, Hazel, you're going to talk about, I'm sure, at length, and just even the social interactivity. And it's because it's being driven largely by Gen Z. So Gen Z, which is diverse, is going to be driving a lot of this, to your point, Dawn, and new voices and new ways of being able to interact and immersively engage in selling are coming to light.
Well, and it's taking it back to, like I said, like the Style Hall days and the multi-channel networks. That was purely somebody looking to camera and doing that smoky eye. And they had now the beauty of it, I think you take one step further, is because across social and different sources of data, you're able to really know that person's audience, that person's emotion and that person's audience. So you're targeting specifically as opposed to just throwing a video up there. But I think it's not really change, you don't change a winning formula. And basically,
well, it's Hazel, I think that the whole idea of every single company, I can't tell you how many press releases we've probably all read. I've read a ton of them. It's the QVC, it's the 2.0 digital of QVC, it's the this, it's the that, and but it's not. So it's not yet, anyways, on any sort of scalable basis. Certainly with what TikTok's doing and what Amazon Live is trying to do. Certainly with what we're doing at Stage 10 and some of the others that are out there. But it's ironic that the only comparison so far is TV shopping. And so now when we're producing shows, we're not worrying about so much the set. We're worrying about how do we shoot something on a vertical platform? How do we squeeze two people into a shot and then make sure they're mic'd and all of those things that brands that are from mass to class are all being, facing there right now, is that everything is so brand protected. And yet it's sometimes is counterintuitive to the whole notion of what is live. And how do you talk about it in a live way that doesn't have a stylist and a makeup artist and all these other sort of back thing pieces to it, that it's much more alive. And the story that you're telling is that much more compelling.
And sorry, go ahead, Hazel. Go ahead.
Okay, no, go on, then. You jump in.
Well, I was just going to say, as we go through this, I mean, we've talked about lots of different elements of how, the platforms are used, and maybe someone out there has seen the video from Social Bread out of Indonesia, where they've got all these different rooms, and it seems very frantic. It seems very intimidating. And I think, if there's anyone watching today, with this demystifying, we're going to be able to sort of explore ways to dip a toe, way to dive right in, and ways to sort of start at your own pace, whether you have a budget or don't have a budget at this state, right?
Right.
We've got a good question that just came in. It's from Juliet Morris. How can live shopping experiences authentically connect with causes like sustainability and diversity that are critical to Gen Z and they expect to see their brands take a position on? Great question. I'll throw that to Jack. Throwing it your way.
And I will mention your ebook, Cynthia, because you have a whole chapter on this, which I just thought was spot on, about how this is a huge opportunity for brands to amplify awareness for what they're doing with causes. A lot of brands are doing things, but they sit in their corporate social responsibility departments. Here's a way to really connect with the consumer and even encourage direct donations and be able to encourage people to donate. So the answer is to walk the walk, and knowing that planet and diversity is so important to the younger consumers, Gen Z and millennials. If a product is sustainable, talk about it, unpack it, talk about, ethical sourcing, and also, make sure that you have diverse hosts, but also products that speak to the needs of diverse consumers. So I think it's putting that foremost on everyone's mind, because it's on the consumers.
And I think giving to since the days of Joan Rivers and Richard Simmons and all these people that and everybody that famous that sort of came through there, they all talked about wanting to give a piece to charity. Like that was going to be the motivating factor. And of course, there's great goodness in that, of wanting to sort of do that. But then the accountant and the CFOs in the background, well, don't give too much away, because we need a margin and we need to pay our people. We need to do that. Obviously, now with sustainability taking on, two meanings. One is sustaining your business. And so making sure that you can stay alive and stay in business. But the whole nature of it used to be a celebrity could go on and just talk about certain things and it would sell. The Gen Z consumer is not buying any of it right now. You better tell them that you're not making 10,000 of them. They're going to end, half of them are going to end up in the ocean. You better have clean beauty. If you don't, everyone pitches us now, it's clean beauty. Well, it's kind of been clean beauty now for like 4 or 5 years, and nobody's using all these other kind of animal products in it. But it's a different message right now that resonates with the consumers that so many people are trying to target in the Gen Z world and others.
And listening to what that audience is actually saying, that they want, it's like playing to their record. It's the storytelling again. So it's picking up on that intelligence and getting that data as to what do people want to hear about sustainability and diversity, and with that, and show them, and tapping into that and feeding them exactly what they want.
We've got another couple of questions from the audience. I just want to go to, because they're going to start coming in. So from Chris Price, what are the cultural differences between US and China that will impact how live shopping works successfully here? Per Dawn's example of Indonesian show, what would work here? Why or why not? Anyone want to tackle that one?
I won't diverge exactly those specifics, because then I would be giving it away to all these people that are on the thing. But I think at Stage 10 we have an idea, and we're soon going to find out at what scalability it will occur. But certainly there's cultural differences. There's the technology is way ahead in China. It always has been in Asia. And it's all that. But I think there's still other ways to how they have interacted so ginormously by connecting their audiences in really unique ways that are live, by the way, that I think really, really matter. And I think it has not been cracked yet, and somebody's going to crack it. And guess who thinks he's part of the company that is?
Well,
Yeah,
yeah,
I think also with this kind of goes to the whole question we've talked about before as a team is the ROI issue. Brands are saying, hey, I just spent X amount of dollars and I got this influencer to do this thing. And we thought we had a good call to action and we had a great product bundle. And guess what? We had zero ROI. And this goes to a couple of things. One, Dawn, I would say on the talent host side, I want you to talk to that. And then B, Hazel, on the analytics side, are we measuring it the right way even? Are there other ways of measuring this besides just like going to a live or watching a VOD and converting to buy? There have to be other analytics put in top of it. So we'll go talent side first. What brands think when they bring a talent on and what actually the reality of that is?
Well, I'll use an example. So I trained a local personality who was broadcasting for a camera company for one of their first live streams. Granted, they were not using shoppable video. They were doing a QR code, taking you to the website, and then, of course, offering links to click out of show. Yeah, I mean, I'll be honest, they were not seeing ginormous sales in show, but what you see trickle afterwards is an uptake on products that maybe were not previously moving that are now moving within a few days. Listen, that's here in Canada, different, I'm certain, in the States. I think everyone thinks that, okay, you've got that great host and it's going to sell. I mean, it's a secret recipe. You've got to have great live selling talent. They have to hit all the marks. They have to be incredibly researched. They have to be engaging on screen. They have to be able to connect with customers to what they cannot touch, taste, or try on. And so I would argue that while we cannot necessarily measure every element to the tune of the billions, of course, that you're seeing in China, are you seeing more brand awareness? Are you going to be an early adopter on this live stream shopping and video commerce and, all the different elements to it that will make you an industry leader so that whether it's in 6 months, 1 year, 2 years, 5 years, whoever knows how long, will you be the one that's perfected it and has got that perfect recipe, that secret sauce, while everyone else is literally, just trying to catch up?
And I would add on that, it's also really important to understand cultural nuances. If you look at, for example, Latinos over-index in categories like babies and beauty and food, there are very important cultural nuances to all those categories that the host has to really relate to and understand and be able to connect with. So I think regardless of the background of where someone's from, having that is probably a big piece of how it grows so fast in China.
And I also think that if this turns out to just be about brand awareness, it ain't going to last very long, because TV shopping, I hate to go back again, but it's live 24 hours a day, 7 days a week on purpose. When we first got there with Barry Diller, it was like, oh, well, why are you wasting all this money to be live at 3 o'clock in the morning? You're not going to sell. Well, of course, we pushed it and we tested going on tape, which some networks do that now, actually 3 or 4 different networks that do that. But you don't get that immediacy, and people want that immediacy that they have. And so this notion of should it be live or should it be shoppable video? I think it should absolutely be live first and then shoppable video second. But if this is becoming an advertising market or a marketing tool, and just like cost of customer acquisition, I think that's the most bogus scenario going right now, because it's so expensive, and so many brands that are D2C, not just retailers, are struggling with that because they have to spend what used to be $25 a customer. Now it's $500 a customer. And those kinds of ways of creating conversion, Cynthia, which this is really what this is all about, it has to drive revenue. It has to have a profit. It has to drive revenue. Otherwise, it's just another form of advertising, and nobody wants or needs, frankly,
And
just
I think that's where some of this ROI kind of comes in. If we've seen the brands where it's like they kind of have it in the marketing group. It's kind of sitting in marketing, and it's not really a sales channel yet. So it's sitting in marketing kind of over there, but there's not really a strategy of it moving over to being an actual sales channel and converting for clients, or kind of using it from a marketing perspective first. But it's going to be very interesting to see. And I'm going to toss to Hazel really quickly on the AI and ML, the analytics side of what's been missing. Like, we have a lot of analytics of conversion and people on site and what they're doing, blah, blah, blah. We've all seen this for the last 20 years. what's new, what's coming, what should we be looking for in video, whether it's streaming video, it's programming, it's shoppable, whatever it happens to be in video, what is new and happening, Hazel?
Well, no, I think going back to the AI side, I think it's the age-old problem when people think like, oh my God, I've got an influencer that's got 2 million following, I'm going to get conversion. Now, that person's audience might be a complete psychographic mismatch with the product you're taking out there. So it's really drilling down and understanding your audience. And audience is all about your customer base, and that's human behavior. So human behavior is your emotions as to what you're going to feel like on a Monday, a Tuesday, or Wednesday, and what your match is. And until you really understand what your match of off platform, of what your audience is, you're not going to be able to sell to them. You're not going to get conversion. You can't just presume that numbers turn into conversion. It just doesn't happen. And so with that, by understanding your audience and through AI and machine learning, that is when you're going to be able to understand how to market, who your audience are, what they want, what is there, because like, we've said before, Sin, brands don't sell products, they sell emotions. Red Bull does not sell a product, it sells adventure, danger, action. So again, we've got to look at the emotions of an audience, and by understanding that and the behavior and what they want, then we can learn how to market to them, how to message to them, the content we want to be creating, and then in turn, which products of their line that they should be launching.
And I just want to tag on to that with respect to hiring like a big influencer and thinking that's going to be, again, the magic thing that happens and turns everything around and kickstarts the idea of a hugely successful live stream shopping event. Listen, if you haven't also, engaged with that influencer to make part of the strategy them sharing the information as opposed to just cashing in on a paycheck, if you haven't ensured they've got the skills to be able to sell, then you may as well, as we've talked before, Mark, as well, you might as well just have a host who is a product expert, by the way. They might not be a doctor or scientist, but they become experts by the amount of research they do. You might as well have them just do it alone and save yourself some cash. So, I mean, it really is about having a complete strategy, not just plopping on a macro influencer on there and thinking it's just going to sell.
We used to always say that, that our first inclination was, we got to spend a lot of money on advertising and marketing, right? The smart people that were there before we were saying, well, why? We're in 100 million television homes live 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. Why the hell should we spend 1 penny in Condé Nast or anywhere else? We're live in that kind of way. And forgive me for anybody that's a chief marketing officer, but I think they should go right to their boss right now and say, make me a chief revenue officer, because then then you have real skin in the game. Then you have to really figure out, because revenue will drive product, will drive sales, et cetera, but that will also drive so-called brand awareness and marketing and all of those kinds of things. But it's where, if you look at the television networks and you look at the media companies and Penske Media and all of those companies, they're all trying to look for new revenue streams. And a lot of them are looking at live commerce for that very same thing. But if we're able to offer a bigger audience than you would normally get by buying influencers or buying, search words on Google or on Facebook, if you're able to bring that audience, and we think we're going to be able to do that in our relationship with Shopify, then you have something to really offer.
This brings me to one. Stu Dolick, dear friend of mine, and Hazel's also, asked the question, how do you address the spontaneity and simplicity of TikTok versus the marathon storytelling of the shopping networks, which are clearly an older audience? Okay,
so
anybody raise their hand?
I wanted to just tag on. I don't know, if this completely answers the question, but I can speak from somebody who, kind of fits into both of those buckets of an influencer and a trained live seller. I mean, who are the OG influencers? They are home shopping hosts. We persuade, we engage. And I think that's sometimes the missing piece possibly to the TikTok. I get it. Some people go, that's cute, I like that person, I want to be like that person, click, buy, done, right? But there are other people that need to engage so that their objections are heard, so that those perceived negatives can turn into a positive selling point, so that someone can advocate for them. And I think that's where TikTok will have its audience, but a more sophisticated shopper, a person that still insists on going into store to buy, that will be who is convertible, the person who is able to have someone engage with them via, again, an expert who also is trained in engaging and addressing those concerns and narrowing down those key selling points, or a host who is able to build that friend-to-friend relationship. Because really, I mean, it's supposed to be fun. Shopping is fun. It's supposed to be entertaining, and people want to get what they expect. And when you build that trust with whoever is on that other side of the screen, as though you were touching that product, trying it on, tasting it, your mouth is watering, that's where we're going to start to see that
But let me
conversion
say,
on other avenues.
it scares the shit out of brands, retailers and brands. This whole idea of a host and somebody talking about their brand that you didn't pay an agency $1 million to write the copy and all those kinds of things. That's scary. And I think it's the fun part of what's happening now. We're launching Todd Oldham next week, and Todd's an amazing talent, an amazing designer on Todd Oldham Maker Studio. And figuring out how to sort of like take his brand and make it relevant so it doesn't look like, God forbid, TV shopping for an older audience. But how do you make it that way? I don't think it's always about it has to be in 2 minutes. I think Gen Z and millennials consume in a faster amount of time. Nobody wants to hear 15 minutes on a ring necessarily.
Yeah.
Right.
They
But
also,
go ahead.
it's all about the who and the how. They want to know who's using the product. Is it someone that has their shared values, or someone that they really, they sweat or they're really into? And then also how. So it shouldn't be scary for them to see the host kind of bringing the product to life. This is how you use it. This is Cynthia, you always use the example of a lipstick, and you're like, what color red, and how is it going to look on different skin tones, and just kind of breaking it out and taking the mystery out for the shopper.
But that does bring up the question of content, which we will address in another webinar, of actual content creation and all the different kind of formats, short, medium, long, and hear from some other experts on it. But I want to go to we got a lot of people asking questions, so this is always good. So let me just roll up really quickly. Liz Blacker, hello. How do media companies and or brands promote shopping in general? Do they lead with a product or talent promoting it? And where do influencers fit in here? So I think it's kind of going back to, you got to have the right product at the right time, and then find the right influencer or host that's going to actually be able to drive the sales. But how do people get started? I mean, you've got to test. This is not like a one-off. If you go in there and you do it once, I don't care what platform you're on, if you go in and you do it once and it doesn't work, I'm sorry, you didn't go in and do Facebook once and it didn't work, and you said, to hell with it, we're not doing it again. That's not how it happens. Marketing is all about, and sales, test and learn and figure out what the secret sauce is for you and your product and your brand, and keep going. It should be rinse and repeat.
And listen to data.
And look at and use the data the way it's supposed to be actually used. Hold on, I want to kind of go a couple. Tracy Trench. I worked a lot in China. Chinese consumers can often get the product delivered to their door within an hour of purchase. Try it on while the scooter driver waits, and return it if it doesn't work. So how can you take the realities of our retail supply chain, make it better, and try to be unique here? That's a big one. That would be a really good one for a retail webinar. To talk.
But I would say this. I would say, don't offer them something that they could also get on Amazon.com delivered in the next hour. Offer them something special, and they will wait for it. If you're offering them something that they can, whilst watching your live show, Google search or Siri search or whatever search, and find it somewhere else, well, why should they buy it from you right then? If you don't give them a compelling reason to buy it live, people will wait. Even impatient millennials and Gen Zs, especially, I have a 15-year-old son, they will wait for something special that they know that they're not going to pick up or order just something off of Amazon. That, I think, is a real difference.
Yeah, the
And it
urgency.
doesn't have to be, sorry, and I was just going to say, it doesn't even have to be an original product necessarily. And I agree, the exclusivity is really important. I found this at, working in home shopping here in Canada. It could literally be the same toaster, but you can only get purple where we are. And you know how many people will wait and wait for purple. They want what they can't get anywhere else. They want that winning feeling of being the one that got it that no one else can get.
Let me go back here again. Anybody brand influencer platform that's doing it really right? Craig Geller brought that up. I think there's a lot of examples out there, right? There's a lot of companies actually doing things with, I don't know, I saw one the other day with Talk Shop Live with Dolly Parton, and I think that went on for 45 minutes, and everybody would say 45 minutes, what the hell, like why would you wait? But you know what, she has a really super big rabid fan base globally, and she was selling, I was talking about, obviously she has a release, a new rock album release, one of her first release, and why she was doing it, and she had a host with her that was actually talking to and pointing to the products, which is something Dolly specifically is not really going to do. So I think that's a really interesting example of the artist merch side. And it was tied into Walmart, into the retailer, right? So it was a really interesting kind of version of it. But we're seeing a lot of great stuff actually happening now. A lot of hits and misses, but.
And in different categories, you've got like, Dick's Sporting Goods, and then you've Bloomingdale's and LVMH. So it's from
Fresh Direct. Yeah, Fresh Direct is doing a lot as well, right? The food category, which you wouldn't think, like food, really? But the food and the recipe category is actually starting to pop. Bob just asked, what categories work best currently in shoppable content? Kind of give me your top 5.
Fashion, skincare, beauty.
I would say, isn't it? Beauty is one.
Food, cooking.
Say cooking.
Electronics.
I mean, at TSC, we sold cars.
Yeah.
I mean, there was a deal that was done. It was the first one done where they had, I think it was Genesis. And of course, we weren't selling the entire car, but we were selling the reservation. People could get it on Easy Pay. They could ask the questions. We had an automotive expert, which again, expert's great, but a host to do all the stick handling of all the homework and all the, the where do you get it and how to buy and all that kind of stuff. So, I mean, really, I think you can do anything. Really nowadays, but there are some that work better than others, right?
Yeah.
I mean, I'm thinking about content, thinking about anybody selling. I mean, we talk about all these hosts and everything. It has to feel authentic, doesn't it? I mean, that was the one word that was used from the beginning of YouTube. YouTubers only watch authentic content. And I think that still remains the same. If you get some cheesy celebrity up there, or that a brand's just put a cheesy celebrity on, it shouts out that it looks like an SNL skit. Something has to feel, even if it's like you're saying, selling a car. If it's a celebrity, for example, that we know who's got a passion for cars and what have you, we are going to listen to that person. And
there's a great woman who started on Instagram who's gotten a lot of press lately. A British woman named Trini Woodall. Yeah, and she is, in my opinion, who's doing it right now? She is. Trini Woodall, I think it's WOODALL on Instagram and all of her other platforms. It is that connected piece that you're talking about, Hazel. Yeah. That has to matter. Look at Joy Mangano. I mean, it was a bloody mop, and then it was a hanger. But we could put 20 other people, and we sure tried to replace Joy Mangano to sell a huggable hanger, and it would sell at like 5% of what she would do. Right. And she became, that sort of personality.
I'm going to jump into Q&A. I'm going to jump in the Q&A again, just really quick, because we've got a lot of some really interesting ones, I think. Paul Levine, DC, what are the best options for a small e-commerce retailer? For example, at Grinning Cat Books, we sell rare and unique books and gifts in the US and globally. We're on Shopify currently. I think live commerce could be awesome for our unique items. Book launches with authors, I think, is really underserved, and I think very, very cool. And it's such a low margin business, as you know, Paul, as a bookseller, and you're selling really great books for kids and everybody. That's a live shopping with the author, and the author could be anywhere. They could be sitting in Australia. Who cares? You could have a virtual, book signing. You could have in store and around the world lining up to buy the book.
Bring the book to life. Yes.
bringing the book to life, having them read that, bringing the book to life there.
I've always hated, not hated, sorry.
Yeah.
I've always disliked going to like book signings, when book signings and they'd show like a little video of a book and they weren't alive and they weren't lively. And I thought the notion, I believe this beyond just books, that the notion of creating lines around the block in person but creating virtual lines around the block, so that experience that the retail profit guy from Canada, whose name escapes me, who brilliantly writes about it all the time, is that experience. And that experience should be just as exciting virtually as it should be in store or in pop-up store or at any event space.
Yeah, and Mark, to that point, I believe stage 10. Oh, sorry, go ahead, Hazel.
I'm just saying that's the largest audience when you're talking about pets or anything like that. That's the largest audience on social media, on digital, what have you, with Dodo. So you've got such a huge potential audience out there. So again, I'll drive back to, for him, really dive in and get as much data on who you want to be targeting and what your audience is, because you've got a huge potential out there of conversion.
Yeah, and Mark, I know that Stage 10 did a book signing and an author release several months ago. I mean, the idea that you can also engage in the news you can use, the get to know the author, the fireside chat, you hardly even have to do any kind of selling, because it is that authentic engagement with, ideally in that scenario, I would suggest, Paul, get a host. Yes, if the author is very good at talking to themselves through the camera and understanding, that engagement level, get an interviewer. I mean, it could be a live selling host, but it could also be, your neighborhood news personality. Like, really sort of take advantage of the tools that are available to you.
I think that's a really good one too. I'm going to switch tracks really quick, and I'm going to go to analytics, because ROI. What ROI, right? It's all of it, right? And we've been kind of dancing around it in all the different forms that it has. But Hazel, I want you to talk to us a little bit about the AI side, and you've been flying over it a little bit with emotion based, but what actually does the binge platform do? How does it actually work? Because I think we can talk about AI and ML, but I think we need like actual real example of how you would utilize it in this kind of format.
Yeah. Real time, real labor, real data live. So if you think of, for us, we are transformable. So we are transformative data. So we are bringing data to life. And I know I say about emotions, but it's human. It really is human behavior. So if somebody is looking, for example, everybody thinks AI, ChatGPT, that is generative data. So you couldn't go in there and say, okay, I need to find an audience who want to buy a Taylor Swift red jacket, for example, if it was H&M. They won't be able to, they won't go out and search. They can't find you an audience. What Binge AI does is we started with movie and TV. We tapped into 18 billion conversations around movie and TV. And with that, we follow 120 million Americans on a daily basis, understanding their emotions, listening to them, what is their behavior, where do they shop, what cars do they drive, what airlines do they fly, for example. We really understand and listen to their conversations. For example, we did 2 different campaigns, one with Disney and one with Paramount. Scream 6 was launching. Scream 5 launched to a huge success with 35 million audience. And then Scream 6 was looking to only launch on 4 million. They came to us and said, could you do an analysis on our trailer that's put out there? Because the minute there's content out there, or the minute there's a conversation, we can really tap into that and know the human behavior of this audience. We did a whole analysis on it, and the audience out there was saying to do with different characters that were in the trailer they weren't liking. There was the train noise in the background. There were the most bizarre little things that the audience were picking up on, that Paramount then tweaked, put a second trailer out, and that movie launched to something like $50 million in that first week. So it's really listening to the underbelly of, we really provide the actionable data. we bring emotions and data to life.
So if
So
you
that-
were, if you could literally ingest all the live VOD in VOD form, shoppable video, anything that a client has done, and look at that in a category of beauty, for example, and over time, you're going to know not only what beauty customers are really looking for in the green space of beauty, or in the anti-aging space of beauty, or in the natural, you would actually be able to then say, no, this is what they're talking about across all areas. But in beauty, here's your actual segment, and here's actually where they live and who they're speaking to. And that's maybe a gap you even find, like, I didn't even know those clients existed in those areas. Is that, I'm trying to...
Time and live, so pre-launch, launch, and post-launch.
Right.
But really understanding as it's going. If they're not seeing an upturn when they've launched a product, why is that happening?
Right.
That's when you're really getting that real-time understanding of their customer.
And layering it onto the data that you're getting on the platforms anyway, right?
And it's off platform. So you think this is social, this is legacy platforms, this is we tap into 186 sources of data globally.
Look, I think that the notion of what you do, Hazel, and figuring out, again, how do you turn that into an ROI and measure it the right way? And data used to be called database marketing. Now it's called a bazillion other things, and AI and metrics, etc. But look at Shopify. I mean, or look at Amazon, but look at Shopify and how brilliant that they are in terms of knowing who their consumer is. And that's on the business to business side of building sites. And now they have the Shop app that has 150 million consumers in North America, that they're going to focus a lot more on these kinds of things. And when you get Shopify and Harley Finkelstein, who's the great president of that company, talking about, yay, we signed LVMH and Pucci yesterday, and all these brands that are kind of building their sites on Shopify. It's not a Shopify commercial, but it is the notion that how do you really use data as opposed to these CACs? I just don't know what the new answer is for how do you replace CACs, because you still have to do them, but the profitability is shrinking dramatically.
You're not going to replace CAC. It's going to be new ways of analyzing. You're going to have to, CAC is not going away from any media buyer's perspective. Jackie, we've been in this business too long to know it's going to take a while. There have to be new analytics. And that's why I think Binge and having, Hazel here is super interesting, because it's taking all that data in your data pool and looking at it across holistically, top down and bottom up. And then you find those nuggets, I think.
We also provide the whether it's the YouTube channels or the people that you should be using to target, that their psychographic of their audience is a match with the people that you are trying to get to buy your product.
I'm going to switch really quickly. We have some other questions, but I'm going to switch back for just 1 second, because we did talk about multicultural in a way, but I think we had a couple questions like English, Spanish, Spanglish. What, Jackie, we know they over-index. We've been in this market for 20 years. We know they're buyers. We know they over-index with the phone, with mobile, with buying, with downloading videos, with downloading music. What language do you feel is the right language to be speaking to these customers?
All of the above, plus authenticity. With Gen Zs, you are seeing Spanglish is becoming much more popular. And so I encourage it, especially if it's natural. If someone speaks naturally, y de repente cambian el idioma, it's okay. But if it's not organic and it's not natural, it's not going to work. I think the other thing that's really key is to realize that gone are the days of push marketing. And this is about consumers inviting you into their community as a brand, and then they want to hear what their community has to say about you. And that's where it gets really fascinating, because you'll see it in Spanish and English and Spanglish. They'll just post. And so the conversation is about being there authentically, but really looking at the community. Like the data you were talking about, it's in real time and it's right there, and you're getting a lot of the emotion from it.
Thank you. What do we think about the future? We have 8 minutes left. This is like we got a couple more questions in the chat I'm gonna slip to, but if we all had a crystal ball, what do we think, 2024, 2025 is going to look like? I mean, I don't think it's going away anytime soon, but I'm the ultra optimist. Want to go around the room? Dawn?
Oh, well, as far as I'm concerned, I mean, the future is video. I think, in addition to using all of the techniques that people do face to face, we'll see it on video. Ideally, that's where we're working toward, right? This whole reason of demystifying live shopping, but incorporating sensory selling and language and demonstration throughout all of our channels, whether it is, a picture with specific language in the captions, or actually seeing the feel, which is what I call the idea of communicating what can't be touched, tasted, or tried on, to the point where someone literally feels it through the screen. And I think, incorporating that even in how we speak is going to be the future, to be more descriptive, to be more inclusive, and to make, everything like shopping more fun, even if you can't go in store.
Hazel?
I'm going to say data-driven content. No longer are people just going to be throwing spaghetti up against a wall. We really have to, we need to be a lot more careful about, all brands have to be careful about the dollars they're spending on marketing and the dollars they're spending on distribution or what have you. So I think they really are, in light of AI and ML, we're going to be learning a lot more. We're going to need to learn a lot more about who our potential audience is and make the right decisions. Like I said, in marketing, in messaging, in content, and in the product that we're going to be launching. Data for me.
Jackie?
So right now, live shopping 32 billion plus in the US alone, and it's supposed to get to over double that in 2 years. My prediction is going to be even more. And it's because of the things that Hazel and Dawn and Mark have been talking about this whole time, and you, Cynthia. It is the increasing social features, the data, and the ability to have insights to really be able to look at what they're doing. But it's also, it's every day, it's just improving, the technology, the gamification, and Gen Z is as leading this is going to really continue to push that. So I think it's going to be much more than double.
Mark?
Yeah, I don't have a clue. I think that if you look at, I have a clue and I have an intuition or whatever, but I think it is still so new, and to just say that it has to be live or it has to be video and that's going to be the wave of the future, it could very well be. But just much like COVID, when we thought we all knew what was going to happen next, we certainly don't know what's going to happen next. But what I will tell you most is that the technology has made it so that you too can be a superstar on the internet. You don't have to be Cindy Crawford or whomever. You too can do it, and everyone's proving it right now, in some cases in a pretty successful kind of way. So the notion of discovery, to me, will never go away. Discovering great technology, great talent, great product, and making that discovery as broad as you can possibly make it on your platforms and whatever business that you happen to be in.
Cynthia, I have one more tag on, because we did talk about this before we even got to the webinar. And I just want to highlight a post that Banwa Sethi out of India had said. And I think the future could be transitioning more toward the selling opinion leader, which they're now calling, and this is brand new, e-soul, as opposed to a key opinion leader. Because what is an opinion? Opinions don't necessarily sell. And so just looking to the future, we might see more of that expertise, and brands demanding more from whoever they put as a representative of their product.
Yeah, I would throw mine in on distribution. I would say the traffic piece we have to solve. And I would say that every single network, fast channel, OTT, AVOD, these are all places for all this content to live. These are also places for all these broadcast network guys to go back and look at libraries that they have and make them shoppable, but also start to produce content that from the get-go in pre-production, there is not just branded entertainment and brand products dropped into the scene in the background, my fake fireplace here, as you can see my hands fake, but it's actually shoppable from the get-go, and finding unique ways to actually utilize it. Hulu, Netflix, I think everybody is absolutely driving in that direction. They're all looking for new ways, new revenue streams. So I'm very bullish on that, which I think would be, 5 years ago, if you said, that Darren Star would ever let Sex and City or anything else be shoppable, he'd say no effing way. But now it's like, but I might not be shopping her exact outfit,
You
but
could
if
go, Cynthia, you could go farther back to when everybody thought point and click with your remote and Jennifer Aniston's pink sweater is going to come flying off her back and into your door.
but
into
would I
the-
not like? But would I'm only watching it just like that for the freaking outfit.
I hope the networks
I-
figure it out. I hope the networks figured that piece of it out, because I don't believe you're going to watch a show and be entertained and buy something at the same time. And I never have.
Yeah, here's where our famous saying comes in.
People are double
Yeah.
screening though. Remember, they're watching a thing, but they all have a phone and an iPad next to them. I think there are a lot of interesting things happening, but I do think that that's something that's coming.
I think it's our favorite line. Content's king, distribution's the emperor.
We call her the Empress now, Queen and
So
Empress.
content's queen, distribution,
Queen and Empress. So we are at almost at the top of the hour. In Q&A, are there any other questions anybody has? There are two left. Hold on one second. Mark Smith. Sorry, I didn't see this one. I run a multi-location patisserie, and we created a weekly feature where a founder pastry chef creates a unique pastry each week. The ones that sell out in 3 hours are put on a list to be considered for future addition to regular product rotation. We're planning the same strategy when we launch our live product feature videos. That's very cool, because you can have people, thumbs up, thumbs down, like voting, doing the online interactive voting. And
Super cool.
That's actually a really, really interesting use of live product feature videos. Congrats on that one. We're all like happy.
Absolutely. We would do that in a skinny minute.
And then Stu Dollick, I love you, my dear. Are all the existing home shopping networks fundamentally dying? I think they're fundamentally trying to figure it out. I mean,
Or reinvent themselves.
QVC launched Sony, something like that. All the live shopping platforms that are out there are investing in and or trying to move, in this direction for sure. They still have audiences. They still sell
a lot of product, but they're certainly, she for the most part is much older than she used to be. Yeah. And they have to figure out ways. It's no different than the cable networks are trying to figure out a cable cord cutting and what have you. I think cable cord cutting is more at risk than necessarily TV shopping companies are, in terms of the tail that is going to exist for those businesses. But they have to figure out another way, because there's no way Gen Z is going to shop on QVC or HSN or anywhere like that, because we've all tried it for 40 years and it just
listen, everyone stopped watching news. I mean, I work in broadcast television, and for years we've been figuring out, how do you get people to watch the news? You have to meet people where they are, and home shopping is doing that as well through attrition. Obviously, we're seeing the decline in numbers, but there are still a number of loyal people that watch, and still, even if they don't watch the linear, they'll still shop on the e-commerce. So absolutely finding new ways to engage. It's super smart that HSN, QVC, TSC, where I work in Canada, are engaging in live stream, even if it's a Facebook Live, to once again have that shopping opportunity or the visibility that can meet people, pop up on their phone where they are. So they're figuring it out. I don't think they're dying. I hope not. I'm going to, rep a jewelry line in a few weeks at TSC. So tune in there. But if you don't think that I'm posting on social and simulcasting and Instagram Live to draw eyes to tsc.ca, you'd be crazy. Of course I'm doing that.
Yeah. Well, we come to kind of the end of our program. Again, you guys are going to get a survey that's going to ask you what we're missing. So if there's something that we didn't get to please tell us, because we will have other webinars coming up, and they're for different topics, including content. We'll probably go another deep dive into analytics and technology and AI and multicultural as well. So please do fill out the survey. And if you want to speak to anybody personally, let us know. We'll make sure you get connected. And if you have any questions, you all know my email address. I think you've received emails from me. If not, drop a note in here really quick before I end. But thank you for attending. This is our first of many, I hope. And these are a great group of panelists and experts here. I'm so privileged and happy to have them. And we're getting lots of little thumbs up, which I love, and little hearts.
Thank you, awesome. Cynthia. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Cynthia. Thank you also,
Thank you.
ladies, to my fellow panelists. This has been great. Bring it on. Keep it live.
Take care, you guys. Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.